Hey gang members, welcome to 2025. It's your old pal Clay here at Mountain Music Exchange, and something that was not on my bingo card list for 2024 was an Epiphone Jimi Hendrix signature. Alright gang, so with me here now, this guitar, it is the Epiphone Love Drops Flying V 1967 Jimi Hendrix signature guitar from the Epiphone Inspired by Gibson Custom Collection. This is, per Epiphone, an exacting recreation of Jimi Hendrix's Flying V, 1967 Flying V from that era. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about what makes it an exact replica, recreation, and what maybe sets it apart a little bit. There are some things that we'll talk about that differentiates this from both Hendrix's Flying V and a 67, as well as the Gibson model that has been in and out of production now. But it is a very cool guitar regardless. It has a ton of cool retro style features, and for the most part, they really do sort of nail the 67 aesthetic. I'll talk about that. What I'll first do is go over sort of the things that separate it from any other Epiphone Flying V or even the other Gibson Inspired by Custom Flying Vs that you see, like the Kirk Hammett model, for example. And then we'll also talk about maybe what makes it a little different, and then we'll just go top to bottom with specs. And finally, I will play it so you can hear it and see it in action. See the poetry in motion that is this guitar. A couple of things really that set it apart at first glance. Of course, you'll notice the Jimi Hendrix insignia on the back there. You'll also notice that these tuners are double ring Kluson style tuners. And what that is basically doing is replicating the 1967 aesthetic. The Flying V in 67, when it came out, would have had double rings, as would some other guitars, the SG perhaps in that same era. Would have had like Kluson double ring tuners. This is an Epiphone Deluxe version of that that's 18:1 tuning ratio. So on a very technical level, while having the appropriate aesthetic, it's actually a little bit better tuner. So that's pretty cool. Also, another thing I noticed here is this super long neck joint here. Like normally on a Flying V, you'll see like the neck joint is very short, maybe comes up just a little bit. But instead of right before this shelf here where the body meets the neck, you get this very long sort of heel here. And I think that's a really cool nod, cool touch. Makes it a little more authentic, a little more exact. Like a lot of the other Epiphone Inspired by Gibson custom models, does have custom bucker pickups here, both the neck and the bridge. You also do get the short vibrola, which you would have seen on a 67 Flying V. The witch hat knobs, very cool stuff here. And of course, you can't really talk about what separates this from other Flying Vs without the elephant in the room here. The most obvious thing is the design, which was originally a hand-painted design with love drops here on the lower wing, which is where we get the name, right? So all in all, it's just got a lot of cool different things. Another quick thing I want to talk about here, the nylon saddles. That is very cool. You seldom see that really anymore outside of the Gibson custom shop. One thing I do want to note though, I can't seem to find out for sure if these saddles are actually nylon or not. I know that the nut is a Graphtec nut, so it may be possible that these saddles are a similar material, if not the exact same material. But if you know more than I do, and there is a good chance that you do, please let me know in the comments below what these saddles are made of. What is the saddle material here? I am dying to, really legitimately dying to know the answer here. I just think it's a cool touch regardless, because typically you could just throw metal saddles on, you know, the Epiphone lock tone bridge, still say it's an exacting recreation. I don't think there would be a ton of pushback, maybe a little bit here and there, but overall, very interesting, and I'd love to know. All right, so with that being said, gang, let's go top to bottom. But before I get into that, it is that time of the video where I want to first, if you have, we've been off for a couple of weeks, so if you are back and watching us from previous videos, thank you very, very much. We always appreciate you hanging out with the gang here at Mountain Music Exchange. But if you have not, or this is your first, you have stumbled into MME territory here on YouTube, consider giving us a like and a subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. It really, really helps out the channel. If you'll see some of our old videos, you can see that the quality has improved quite a bit. The actual literal video quality itself, but also kind of the routine is a little bit more flowing and that sort of thing. So anyway, give us a like and a subscribe and hang with the gang here at Mountain Music Exchange. All right, enough of the shameless like, and subscribe plug. All right, so we're gonna go top to bottom. You do have the rather tall, sort of narrow headstock here for the Flying V on this one. I'm not sure if the original 67 Flying V headstock is a little bit taller, maybe separated from the tuners, but I still think it looks really, really good. You do have the 3-screw truss rod cover here. Of course, it says Epiphone and not Gibson for obvious reasons, but on the back with the serial number, you do have that cool double diamond stamp in there along with the serial number that is also stamped in. You have a Graphtec nut right here. You have a 22 fret fingerboard made out of Indian laurel. So I know that that is a little bit different. Okay, some of you will probably say a lot different than the rosewood that would have been found on a 67 Flying V or Jimi Hendrix's Flying V for that matter. And that's fine, it is different, but all in all, and I've said this in other videos too, I think that if you just polish this up, like use some lemon oil, kind of let this soak in, let it get a little darker. It looks very similarly porous to rosewood, and I don't think the feel is far off from rosewood at all, if any different. And once you get in the feel of play and the groove of play, and you've got this thing set up the way you want, it does the things you want to do, makes the sounds you want to make, I sincerely doubt that you will care. This guitar, by the way, is $14.99. Does come with a hard shell case, which you can see right here next to me. That is a very cool case, by the way. We will talk about that momentarily. It has very cool interior, very cool exterior. You get the authentic Hendrix branding near the headstock on that, so I do think that's very, very cool. All right, anyway, going on down, I have digressed, so let's come back, okay? Going on down the body here, like I said before, you do have that sort of taller heel here at the joint area. Very cool aesthetically. Not necessarily as cool for playing because, you know, it does sort of impede your fast travel a little bit as you run up the register. But all in all, you can still reach everything you need to reach. And you can see I have slightly smaller than average hands here. And you can reach everything that you need to reach. And it is still very, very functional, just not as forgiving to the fast player, we'll say that. And you also have mother of pearl inlays here, and there's a real mother of pearl, by the way. That's not like a pearloid or anything like that. You have real mother of pearl inlays in the neck. Again, not exacting to a 67 spec, but a very cool feature to add, and I think it's a fair trade. You also get a slim C profile neck here. It is very, very 60s. It is rounded. It's not got like shoulders that are particular or like sort of a flat spot. It's not like a D-shaped neck or anything like that. It's just very rounded. It is very small. And again, you can see my slightly smaller than average hands reach around that quite well all the way up the register. Of course, the beautiful, beautiful Love Drops artwork here on the body of the guitar. And on top of all that, you have 2 custom Bucker pickups. You do have the Maestro bridge. You have an Epiphone lock tone bridge here as well. Of course, again, not exact specs. You would have, of course, had an ABR1 on an original 67 Flying V, as would Hendrix's have had the same thing. You do get witch hat knobs, which are very cool. You get CTS pots, Mallory capacitors, Switchcraft switch and jack. Just a really, really cool guitar. But that case that comes with it also has a very, very luxe looking interior, and it's a Flying V case. So when you carry it, it's always just gonna look cool. People are gonna know right out of the gate, you've got a Flying V, and that's never a bad thing, right? Let's let you hear this sucker, and let's let me play it a little bit for you. Now, full disclosure, I'm not going to play like Hendrix. I may try and take a crack at a couple of those tunes, maybe not even a couple. But there's a couple of reasons I'm not gonna like play a bunch of Hendrix tunes on this. 1, not gonna lie, not very good at it. 2, I want to be able to let you guys see this guitar stand on its own as a guitar. Like, let's say all of the Love Drops hallmarks were just washed away from this, for example, right? Would this still be a good Flying V? Would this be a good guitar? One more thing I do want to mention, by the way, that's separate. Of course, this being an Epiphone, even from the Inspired by Gibson custom range, this does have a full-on polyurethane finish, so it is very glossy, very shiny. That is another thing that separates it from a Gibson custom or an original Gibson. They would have had nitro finishes. There is a benefit to that, though, in my eyes, with this one, because you're not going to wear away this beautiful finish here. That's sort of probably the reason that you're buying this guitar, right? That will stay good and in check so long as you don't turn sideways the wrong way while you're holding this V and do Flying V things with it, like hit the corner of a desk or something like that, which has happened to me with prior Flying Vs before. Okay, gang, so we're gonna be using a Line 6 Helix, and with that, I'm gonna be using like something in the vein of a Fender Deluxe style amp model, so I can show you sort of how clean this is, but also sort of how it breaks up. And we'll also be using a Marshall style amp model as well, of course, because this is a Hendrix signature guitar, it seems only appropriate. So without further ado, gang, let's get to that. Okay, Voodoo Children, this is here, right in my hands, this guitar, the Epiphone Jimi Hendrix Love Drops Flying V. It is a pretty interesting unit, like I said before at the first of the video. Did not expect, that was not on my bingo card, to pop up. An Epiphone Jimi Hendrix signature model was nowhere to be found. And even when this guitar came out, it surprised me. Like, I work here at a music store, right? And when the announcement dropped, I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. That's real. Completely floored. I had no idea, right? So I think it's just really cool that Epiphone has done this, that collaborated with Gibson Custom to make this thing happen. I like the way this sounds. I've always been a fan since they've come out of the custom buckers. I've even had a couple of guitars myself from the Gibson Custom line that have them. These are not watered down versions of custom buckers in any way whatsoever. These are real Gibson USA custom buckers, the same exact pickup they would throw in a $7,500 Murphy Lab, for example, right? And at $14.99, I think it's a good value. It's a good value for a 67 Flying V recreation. Gibson USA doesn't make a 67 Flying V recreation that is this close, and otherwise, neither does Epiphone. So you're gonna be at this price or, you know, in the 5,000 territory or above to get a 67 authentic recreation of a Flying V. So with that alone, I think that's cool. The Maestro seems to work well enough. I actually just think it's a cool guitar, as I do with most of the guitars that we happen to check out here in the spotlight. So check us out on mountainmusicexchange.com, where you can find this guitar as well as a slew of other guitars. We have a ton of in-stock inventory, and on the website, if you see it, it's in stock. It is directly connected to our sales system. So if you see it, we have it. Give us a call, order online, check us out either way. Free shipping on orders over 49 bucks. Also, don't forget to check us out on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Gang, that is going to have us for this one. This has been the Jimi Hendrix Love Drops Flying V, and I have been and still am your old pal Clay. And you rock, and wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, make it loud. See you again.